Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
He really was the best dad.
Happy birthday, dear Pumpkinhead.
He drove me to school every day, from kindergarten until I got my license. He made sure that he was at my soccer games, every birthday party, piano recital.
Go!
Oh. Good work.
Happy birthday to you.
So you were very close.
Incredibly close. He was genuinely my favorite person. My mom's okay with me saying that.
Push down. Push.
Tom Randall, devoted father, doting husband, loyal friend.
I used to always say, if I had a daughter, this is the kind of guy that you would want to hope that she marries.
But Tom Randall lived every day of his full and seemingly happy adult life hiding a dark secret, one that he held inside for more than 52 years.
Tom's masterpiece.
As he lay dying from lung cancer in his Linfield home, Tom Randall confided to his wife and daughter that he wasn't exactly who they thought he was, but he was sketchy with the details.
Like any good millennial, Tom's daughter Ashley immediately took what little information he shared and went straight to the web.
There on her iPad, a grainy picture of a familiar face stared back at her, a bank robber from Ohio named Ted Conrad.
And I thought, oh my God, this is my dad. My dad's a fugitive.
This is Chronicle on WCVB Channel 5.
July 11th, 1969, downtown Cleveland, Ohio. A 20-year-old employee at the Society National Bank walks out of the vault with a paper bag stuffed with $215,000, the equivalent of $1.7 million today. His name, Ted Conrad.
If you can, describe your earliest recollections of you hearing about this guy, Ted Conrad.
Well, that would have been definitely through my father. My father was a deputy U.S. Marshal from 1967 to 1990.
Pete Elliott is U.S. Marshal for the Northern District of Ohio. His late father, John Elliott, also a U.S. Marshal, spent his entire career trying to track down Ted Conrad.
How would you describe his interest in the case?
Fixated, in some ways obsessed with catching Conrad.
So who was this brash kid who coolly walked away from his employer with a fortune and simply vanished? The mystery is explored in a new podcast, Smokescreen, My Fugitive Dad, put together in collaboration with Ashley Randall.
The podcast is sort of two pieces. It's part caper, and it's following the Elliott family as they search for the truth about where Ted Conrad is. And then it's about my family, who were living this lie and had no idea.
The podcast opens with a teenager's obsession with the film The Thomas Crown Affair.
By the time he and I saw it together, he'd seen it probably 5 times.
Conrad insisted that his best friend, Russ Metcalf, see the new Steve McQueen movie, the story of a clever, debonair bank thief who gets away with the perfect crime.
He thought McQueen was the coolest thing in the world. I mean, he saw this guy as, that's me.
Conrad used to talk to Metcalf about how lax security was at the bank where he worked, but Metcalf never imagined his fun-loving, generous friend had the makings of a bank robber. After all, Ted Conrad seemed way too happy driving fast cars and chasing pretty girls.
Ted was blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and the girls all loved him.
But on that hot summer afternoon in 1969, Ted Conrad encountered a tempting opportunity and made a decision that would change the course of his life.
I mean, he'd been 20 for one day. He turned 20 the day before. So when you're a dumb teenager, things that might seem like a good idea at the time are actually not. But then you've made these choices and you sort of have to make the best of it.
Making the best of it, he did, eluding authorities and finding his way to Massachusetts, where he became a golf pro at the Pembroke Country Club. Ted Conrad grew a beard, adopted the name Tom Randall, and shifted to a career selling cars. Along the way, he met his wife, Kathy, started a family, and settled into decades of a quiet suburban life in Linfield. In 2021, he was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer, and Tom Randall knew the time had finally come to come clean with his wife and daughter.
He said, just in case it comes up, I don't want you to be blindsided. I don't really want to talk about it, but I had to change my name when I moved here. The authorities might still be looking for me. And my initial reaction was, this is a really bad dad joke.
Okay, I mean, obviously you must have wanted to know why the authorities would be possibly looking for me.
I went back and talked to my dad the next day, just the two of us, and I said, look, I'm your daughter. I deserve to know my dad's name, and by extension, my name. Because if your name isn't Tom Randall, then what is Ashley Randall? And that's when he told me his name was Ted Conrad.
Ashley and her mother had no reason to doubt Tom Randall's claim that he was an only child raised in Colorado who had lost his parents in a terrible car crash. Ashley's mother, Kathy, is alive and well, but did not want to be on camera. She does, however, contribute to the podcast. Up next, a friend to all who knew him.